Emily. Welcome to Jacey's Creek, where I talk about Pacey and Joey as a couple and as individuals. Like I said, my name is Emily. I will be your host for this podcast, and in case this is your first time here, let me tell you a few details of what makes this podcast. Like I said, this podcast is based off of Pacey and Joey as a couple and as individuals. I decided to make this podcast because I feel like there are several times where we look back and we see one of them making some comment that they made to someone else, and they come together and they make something. So what I mean by this was, even today I found one, or a long time ago I found one and then I posted it, where it was Pacey holding Joey in the window, and then there was a scene from season 2 where Dawson and Joey were kissing at the window, and it was a complete different setting and stuff like that. But then there was another one where I found yesterday, or 2 days ago. I found one where it was where Joey in season 3, episode 23, Pacey was like, "What are we gonna do here, Joe?" And Joey was like, "I want to come with you." And then in season 5, episode 23, Dawson said, "Come with me, Joe." And she said, "I can't and I won't." And the difference between those two was, she'll say she'll come for Pacey, but she won't come for Dawson. And I just find that very funny. And I've always found that funny, but it's just, I feel like Dawson's such a pushy person. And all of these are very biased opinions. I want to say that up front right now. If you don't like my opinions, I encourage you, do not listen. But it's up to you, honestly. I'm very open-minded sometimes. I try to be pretty open-minded now thinking about it, but I feel like I make very impulse decisions. So if someone will say they don't like my stuff, I'll be like, "What? Why?" And sometimes I'm like, "Slow down, Emily. It's their opinion." And that's what I'm learning throughout this whole podcast and Instagram. But back to this. The main reason why you should listen to this podcast is because I feel like there is so many things, so many opinions, like I said, and if we continue to come together and to make it work, then one day we'll just have a big collection of thoughts as we go along, Pacey and Joey as a couple and as individuals. Right now, we're going to go into scene 1 of this episode. In this episode, it is called Discovery. It came out on February 10th, 1998. We see 5 scenes of Joey and 5 of Pacey and 1 scene of the 2 of them together, which I know that sounds really bad when I say there's only 1 scene of them together, but you guys, there were so many where I'm like, that led a connection to this, and that led a connection to this. Scene 1 of Joey. As drunk Pacey would say it, "Here we go, kiddies, for the 470th time this hour. Our number 1 Billboard chart topper. The Ballad of Dawson and Joey. Will these 2 cry kids ever, in this case, stop talking about gin and figure out what they are?" Which, no, they don't. In the first scene, we see Dawson telling Joey that Jen is, "Oh my god, she is perfect." Joey then looks at the TV and then Jen's iconic scene and says, "Perfect? Dawson, you disappoint me." And then goes, the eyes, the hair, like, of course he pays attention to the eyes and the hair. He is saying the physical attraction, but he's never saying the inner attraction, which Dawson only pays attention to the physical parts instead of the, like, real inside of the parts. Like, I'm pretty sure there's so many scenes where I'm like, Dawson, pay attention to her actions rather than what she looks like. Like when Eve came around and Dawson was paying attention to what she looked like rather than what her actions were. Even Joey was like, "Why do you like her? Like, there's nothing to like." And Dawson was like, "Well, do you not see her?" And la-di-da-di-da, which it was ironic because it was Jen's sister. So he might have an attraction to the Lindleys or something, but I don't know, Dawson. I just never understand why he pays attention there instead of what's inside. Joey then says, well, I guarantee that girl has certain physical requirements, but nothing so ordinary or mysterious to want a perfection. And Dawson says, okay, easy. I mean, a face like that leaves nothing to the imagination. The well-managed good looks of an upper-classman in New York, there's no mystery there. I can see her entire future in that pose. And Dawson says, really? Then Joey, of course, predicts the future by saying, yeah, in 3 years, her above ACT scores will grant her an admission into a small liberal arts college somewhere in New England, where she'll major in art history, before returning to Manhattan to marry a bond trader she meets some Saturday afternoon at American's Cup watching party. Within a year, they'll move to Supper, Connecticut, refurnish an old farmhouse, and raise 2 neurotic perfect children. Which Dawson then replies with, you put quite a lot of thought into this. And Joey, of course, says, because it's just so obvious. Like, yes, Joey, that's what I think about every time I think about my crush's crush. Like, oh, it's just so obvious that this is gonna happen to them. Yeah, that's what I think. Dawson then says, well, to be honest, I think I prefer to let Jen surprise me, okay? Pause. Dawson, when she does surprise you, you completely freak out. So, don't say that ever again. Which he doesn't, but that irritates me. Then Joey says, suit yourself, I'm trying to save you some time. AKA what Joey really means is, Dawson, if you really saw me right now for me, you would love me, but you can't see me, and I don't think he ever does see her, to be honest. Dawson is then handed a tape by Joey because he asked her to hand the B tape, which, in my opinion, Dawson always will ignore Joey whenever she's trying to make a point about something. If you have not noticed, for the past 4 episodes, I'll be like, and then Dawson just continues talking. And it really irritates me how he just continues talking. And I'm like, Dawson, let her talk for once, or listen to her opinion. Or he'll listen like a lot later, and it just kind of irritates me. Which I know that's just people's personalities. And sometimes I'm like, why are people not listening to other people? But then I do it, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's why they do it. It says, By the way, I'm taking suggestions on what to get my parents for a suitable anniversary gift. I'm at a total loss. I mean, what do you give 2 people who have spent every day together for the past 20 years? Which, in my opinion, maybe I'm just a divorced kid and I just don't understand why people don't know what to get their parents for their wedding anniversary. But I'm like, you could get them something easy, like get them something from the store, or get them a card and say happy anniversary or something. It's not your job as the kid to get them an anniversary gift. And then Joey says, offhand I say separate vacations. Which, okay, Joey, kind of bring that in right there. But as that, we see the great Tamara doing it with wink wink, not the boy, Pacey, with her. And Joey goes, Dawson, I know your cynical influence are evolving, but I never implied a Rustin Meyer phase. And Dawson goes, I didn't shoot this. Dawson, it's on your camera. Of course you shot it. That doesn't mean you deny it, but I know that's what he meant, like, I didn't shoot this, but at the same time I'm like, Dawson. Don't deny it. You totally shot Pacey's first time without knowing it. And then, question. Did Joshua Jackson have to act out this scene? Because that would be very, very awkward for him. Because she was like in the video of Tamara doing it with Pacey. She was like gasping and moaning and stuff like that. And that was so awkward every time I watch it. So I can't imagine like Joshua Jackson having to play that. I'm assuming they got an older man, but I really want to know this, and I might have to ask some people, but at the same time, I'm like, that's awkward. Joey being Joey says, I think we found the perfect anniversary gift, Dawson. And then she says, what is this? But I love how she goes, I think we found the perfect anniversary gift. Like, good job. Can you imagine Mr. and Mrs. Leary opening up their anniversary gift? And then they just see Pacey and Tamara doing it for the first time. That would be so awkward. And then Dawson replies with, I don't know, I swear I didn't shoot it. And then he took a minute. He goes, I must have left my camera running. We ran out the ruins. Well, duh, I didn't think about that. I wonder how you shot this if you don't remember shooting it. Probably because you left your camera on. Wow, you're a genius, Dawson. I never thought about that. And then Joey says, you know, it's not without a certain quality. And then Dawson replies with, very watchable. Joey says, yeah. Dawson says, it's funny. That woman looks familiar. And Joey goes, I know what you mean. If you brush your hair out of her eyes a little, which she does, like this hand motion, which I always found pretty cute. I don't know why. And Dawson says, and maybe sit her behind a school desk? Joey's smiling at Dawson as Dawson's just staring at the TV, which I always wondered why they didn't know it was Pacey. I understand why they didn't, but at the same time, I'm like, how did you not know? Then we see scene 1 of Pacey and Joey. Dawson is telling Jen and Pacey about what had happened to him and Joey and what they saw on the tape. I love how none of them realized that some guy, as Dawson put it, is actually Pacey. While Dawson is explaining the whole thing, Pacey just looks so nervous. Now let's do a fun game to see how many times Joey pushed her hair back like Debbie Ryan. I'll start with 1. Pacey says, wait a minute, you have a tape of Tamara? And then Joey goes, oh, I'm sorry, Pacey. I know you thought she was saving herself for you. And then Pacey gives Joey like a nod, like, oh, come on, like, just stop. Like, haha, very funny. Dawson says, while smiling, I was shooting some pickup at the ruins with Jen, and we accidentally left the camera running. When we ran out, and the rest pornographic history. And this leads to number 1 of Joey laughing and then pushing her hair back. Because she always just pushed her hair back every single time. And then Pacey nervously asks, God, that's so strange. You can't tell who the guy is or anything, can you? And I hate how Dawson says, we can't see the guy's face. Because he goes, he kind of like, he makes this face like, oh, you're just some horny teenager and why are you trying to go after this 35-year-old woman? And clearly she's not into you. And it kind of makes me mad because I'm like, he's supposed to be your best friend, but yet you continue doing this to him. Okay. Pacey, when he hears that they can't see the guy's face, Pacey just signs with relief. But I kind of wonder what would happen if they did see the guy's face, Joey and Dawson would have said, I wonder how Joey would have reacted. Because it says, so if you're thinking of tracking him down, just look for the guy with the brown hair and the throbbing neck muscles. And then pushes her hair back like Debbie Ryan for the third time. And I kind of feel bad for Pacey at this moment, because I'm like, he has 3 friends sitting right in front of him. He knows this big, dirty secret about him and Tamara, but he can't say anything. Like, that kind of breaks my heart, because it's like, if you have a friend and you really want to tell them what's happening and you can't because it will just be wrong by telling them what happened. Like, oh yeah, I slept with my teacher, ha ha ha, like, fun, fun, fun. And then poor Pacey wanted to just find out what to do, but he was just like, I'm just gonna ignore that and focus on what I have to do at this moment, which I said that Dawson ignores her, but Pacey definitely ignores her at this moment, because how can you reply with the brown hair and the throbbing neck muscles? Joey's definitely gonna remember that one. Which again, proof why Pacey and Joey probably need to be together, because Pacey and Joey just had like this sexual, I don't want to say like sexual interaction, but they kind of did it sometimes. Like the first episode, he talked about her ass. The second episode, he kind of acted like he wanted to kiss her, but I think it was second episode where he kind of acted like he wanted to kiss her. And I can't really remember what the third episode was kind of based off of them too. But the fourth episode now, she was like talking about the brown hair and the throbbing neck and muscles. Like, Joey, what were you looking at? I know you weren't thinking about Tamara, but still, at the same time, I see you. Like, one day you're gonna be with that guy with the brown hair and the throbbing neck muscles. Which now, Joshua Jackson has black hair, and it looks so good. He's gonna play this, doctor in the show. It's the evil doctor, and I'm so ready for that, I'm not gonna lie, because I'm just like, ooh, we always see like Joshua Jackson, who plays Pacey, as the good guy, but now we actually get to see him as the bad guy. Like, yes. And again, if you haven't seen The Affair, I highly recommend it. I made my friend watch it this week with me, and we just watched the ending, and it was so good. But Joshua Jackson looks so much older than I actually realized that he was in the show. And every single time, like, he was stressed out, he had like this wrinkle in between his eyebrows, and I can't say enough how cute that looked. But then we see Pacey asks, Dawson, I think I should take a look at that tape. And he was about to like knock his drink over because he was so nervous about this. And Dawson says, sure, we'll arrange a private screening for you. And Joey enjoying herself by saying, yeah, so you can flat the bishop in private. Okay, Joey, okay. And alright, I can see where he calls her a prude in a lot of ways, but in this way, but I just find it always funny that she just says, you can just flag him. Like, okay, alright, Joe. And then he says, you know, that's really clever how you turn all the sexual repercussion into humor. And Joey just looks at him, they look back at each other, and then Jen says, well, I gotta go. And Dawson says, I'll go with you. Of course he says that. And then Joey looks annoyed as Dawson and Jen walk out, and then Pacey reminds him, don't forget the tape. And then Joey goes purper and he goes prude. And I love this scene between them. But it just kind of reminds me, here's a lot of things that I'm like, it's Pacey's first time, and it makes sense why he's very nervous about asking Dawson, like, can you see them? Like, can you see me? And of course, he doesn't go, hey guys, do you see me on this tape? But he's just, like, very nervous, and Joey's making all these jokes while Dawson's like, you can't go and see it. And they've known each other for probably so long. I always wondered if Joey knew the same amount of time that she knew Dawson. I always go, why aren't these two as close? But then Dawson leaves Joey and Pacey alone, which scenes like this, I always wondered, what happened with this, and what happened with that, and how did they get there, and how did they greet each other? And just, when you get to the part where you just continue watching these two, you just wonder, what if? Then we see scene 1 of just Pacey. We then see Pacey wrecking Dawson and Staley's, trying to find him and Tamara. And when Dawson walks in, he goes, Pacey, what are you doing? You're wrecking my dailies. And I know Pacey was just trying to find it and over and over and over and over and over again. He just can't find it, and he was just panicking, which I know why he did that, because I wouldn't want to go up to my best friend and be like, well, I kind of have this problem where you filmed my first time and I just don't know how to tell you, so I've been kind of throwing these hints at you and you just don't seem to understand, and I can't put a finger on it, but it's just do you happen to know where that tape is? Because I'm pretty sure that's how Pacey was like, do you happen to know where this tape is? Because that would be very, very nice. And then Dawson asked if he couldn't wait, and Pacey says, I guess not. Dawson was like, I know you wanted her, but you mad dog, here you go. It was then quiet as Pacey says Dawson's name, and then Dawson was like, yeah? And Pacey says, maybe I haven't been entirely honest with you lately. I mean, not I lied to you or anything, just withheld some details. One thing I do admire about Pacey is how honest he is with people. And I know I said this a few episodes ago where I said Pacey and Joey talk about anything. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately. I kind of disagree with myself there because Pacey and Joey never really talked about too much when they were arguing, but they never left each other hanging, unlike Dawson and Joey, because I feel like Dawson and Joey went through months of not talking. They went through the whole summer of not talking, and even when Pacey and Joey were broken up, they never went they did went a summer without talking with each other, but I'm pretty sure there were probably some postcards, maybe, I don't know, but what I want to say about this is because Dawson will leave her for the summer and just kind of leave her alone, but Pacey always came back. Both of them always came back to Joey, no matter what the situation was. In the 6th season, it was Dawson not seeing Joey throughout the whole summer. He made it a big deal when he came back. We haven't seen each other this whole summer, and I just don't understand. I get that. And this was after the first time, so I'm first of all, Dawson, don't go blaming that you haven't talked to someone for the whole summer and then just expect it to be okay. And with Pacey, he knew that his actions were wrong, and that's why he didn't want to go and see Joey, which it sounds like I'm just kind of but Pacey's the bigger person because he actually stood up for what he believed in and didn't say anything and la-di-da-di-da, but Pacey was such a bigger person when it came to honesty because he never gaslight Joey he did. He gaslight Joey in the prom episode, and maybe a few times I just hadn't caught on to it, but I feel like there was a lot more episodes, especially in this one, where Dawson will hear something, and he'll take it, and he'll use it against someone. So, for example, Pacey was explaining this whole thing. Later he goes on, and Dawson uses it against him. But Pacey never once really held anything against Dawson. He was pretty honest with him. I think Pacey was one of the most honest characters in this whole entire show, and you cannot convince me wrong. because whenever he was feeling something, you could tell on his face that he was trying to hide it. And I know a lot of people are like, no, like, I don't see that. But if you look very, very closely, you'll see where Pacey was kind of starting to break in season 4. It was very small, but you could see him, like, trying to hold himself together. And especially in season 4 when he asked Gretchen, like, should I be the bigger person and go apologize, or what should I do? Like, you could tell he was on his breaking point. And then even a few episodes before, where he was just sitting in that classroom all alone trying to figure out what to do, and then Drew came along, he was like, hey, like, I'm going out and I think you should come with me. And then Pacey went with him, which I never understood why he went with Drew. But this itself went back to Pacey is just a very honest person. And I like how he has to explain himself throughout the whole show with when he was going to be honest with someone. And then Dawson says, I'm not quite following you, Pacey. And Pacey then explains how he got the girl. He said, I got the girl this time, Dawson. And Dawson's like, what? Pacey said, yeah, call it law of averages, call it an act of God, call it whatever you want, but I got her. Dawson goes, who? Pacey, who'd you get? Pacey goes, oh, you know what, Dawson? I don't know how to tell you this, but you know the guy with the brown hair and the throbbing neck muscles? The guy with Tamara Jacobs? That's me. Poor Pacey, he had to explain to his best friend, you know the guy with, like, what Joey said earlier, with the throbbing neck muscles and the brown hair? I do like how he did use Joey's example. It was kind of like he was listening to Joey, but at the same time, like, that was proof that he listened to her. And earlier I said that Dawson kind of uses Joey's words and then later brings it up. But in this case, you could tell that, like, Pacey was nervous earlier, and that's why he didn't bring it up to Joey. And then Dawson replies with, no. And Pacey says, yeah, I'm not talking about this time, though. But, oh, I wish I was, 'cause on the top of my head, I could think about 40 reasons why this tape could ruin my life. The least of which is the embarrassment factor. I mean, no guy's first time should be caught on camera. Let's just talk about this for a few minutes. I think it's so sad that Pacey's first time was caught on camera. I don't know how to explain this. Like, if I would never want my first time to be caught on camera, and everyone, I saw this post a few days ago where it was like, did you ever give a speech out when you were doing your first time? And obviously people kind of said yes or no, and I just kind of wanted to see what they were saying, but they thought that was weird. But I could never imagine my first time being caught on camera, and I know some people have great pleasures with that. And I'm not judging anyone if they have great pleasure with that. I just don't want to know about that. And I could think about 40 reasons where this could have gone wrong if this was 2021 show, because that sex tape would have definitely been on the internet in an instant. So Pacey's very lucky that he was not born in 2021, because there are about 50 million reasons how, well, that could have ended up very, 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 very wrong. For not him, but for Tamara. But I feel like a lot of people would have more opinions on this subject if it was 2021, because there are a lot of people with a lot of opinions, and I feel like in 1998, maybe I'm wrong because I definitely was not born this time, but I feel like then there wasn't that many people expressing their feelings like how they are now, which is great, don't get me wrong, but I try to stay away from that kind of interaction. That's why you'll never see me talk about voting or whatever race is going out, or whatever race is trying to have a movement there, or a vaccine post, because it's not that I don't care about that stuff. It's just there are so many opinions in this world. And like I said earlier, like in the beginning of the episode, it's so funny how we can all have these opinions and how they can all come together, but a lot of us are terrified of each other's opinion. And then in this episode, Pacey is terrified of what other people are going to say. Like, he is generally terrified of what Dawson may say to him when he figures out that it was him tomorrow. Like, what is Dawson going to say about this? How is Dawson going to react about this? And I think when it's your best friend, too, it's very hard to tell them something that may not make sense to them, and you know it may not make sense to them. Because earlier, Dawson looked kind of like, ha ha ha, like, I caught this tape of Tamara doing it with some guy, and Pacey was just like, oh, well, like, can you tell who that guy is? And Joey was even like, oh, like, you can't beat him up. And I feel like hearing those things, and I love how Jen was just quiet the whole time. Probably because she was like, Dawson, I'm not a virgin. Like, you should consider that. And I feel like when you consider all the facts of your friends saying all these things to you and trying to bring up that something is happening, and you know it's your first time, and you know, like, this is not going to end up well. Because if I tell them now, he even says, least of which is the embarrassment factor. Like, he knew it was embarrassing, but he was like, no guy's first time should ever be on camera. Which I hate saying this, but Dawson could have used this several times against him. And I think he does. Like, I really think that Dawson uses Pacey's first time where he was like, because Dawson sees like this very sexual, horny guy whenever he's trying to like talk about it, but it's his best friend. Like, Pacey trusts Dawson by saying like, hey, this is me, can you delete it? And I just feel really bad for him. Like, that's all I'm gonna say about that. Dawson should have knocked Pacey aside the head when he heard this, and it should have went to his parents, like he did with Joey's dad. Like, you didn't go up to an adult for this part, but you're gonna go up to Joey's dad, which I get it. It's a whole different situation, but in another way, and I'm not encouraging Tamara and Pacey in any type of way, but if you are knowing that your teacher and your best friend are sleeping together, why aren't you saying anything to your parents? Like, I feel like that's the obvious thing. Instead of saying, are you crazy? I don't think there's a currently an exist word to describe my reaction. And Pacey goes, but I like her, Dawson, I really do, and it's not just about sex, man. I don't know, maybe this is probable and bizarre to ever work out. And Dawson said, bizarre might be the right word. Bizarre might be the word, yeah. And I feel like if you knew that Pacey was having sex with the teacher, Dawson, why aren't you saying anything? Like, why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you being like, Pacey, you need to end this right now, and you know it's wrong. So why are you continue doing this? That's what I would say. But then again, these are guys and guys, and Dawson says nothing. Like, he's just like, I have no words for this. And there was plenty of words that you could have said. And again, 1998, not 2021. If it was in 2021, whoo-wee, that would have been bad. And I heard this story on Dawson's critique on the second episode, I believe. Maybe it was the first. And I can't remember the person's name, but there was an actual story based on where the teacher and this 12-year-old boy got together, and they had a few kids, and it was kind of gross. Like, if my best friend walked up to me and told me, hey, Emily, like, this teacher is, like, I'm having a relationship with him, and I like him, and it may sound crazy, but it's not about the sex, I would have looked at her and said, what? Like, are you serious right now? Are you kidding me? No, you have to end this. And I probably would have, like, said something to someone. And it's none of my business, personally. So I probably would have been like, Dawson, it's none of my business. I wouldn't say anything. But at the same time, I see my best friend struggling. I see them saying this to me. It's a no-brainer. You go up to someone and you say something. But then we see Pacey ask if he was any good. And this part was a very sentimental moment between the two friends. Because Pacey says, yeah, this is going to sound a little strange, but on the tape, did I look alright performance-wise? Did I cut it out, man? And Dawson then replies with, yeah, you did fine, man. I mean, from what I could tell, yeah, you did fine. Which that would be very, very awkward. Again, it goes back to the best friend. If my best friend told me that they were having a sexual relationship with one of their teachers, I would have been like, you did horrible. But at the same time, I would have been like, yeah, you did fine. Like, you did good. And I feel like it was just one of those comfy kind of moments. But at the same time, if Dawson, and then Pacey goes, cool, man, thanks. And then he goes, don't tell anyone. And then Dawson goes, alright. And then Pacey holds up the tape and walks out the door. See scene 2 of Joey. You see Dawson and Joey walking into the store, and Joey's giving him ideas like folks art for the anniversary present. And she's talking about how middle-aged parents like his parents will definitely like folks art. And then we see Dawson explain, you should have seen my parents lately. It's disgusting. They're half the time they're making out or dry humping in the living room. You know, what's sad is I'm actually jealous of my parents' sex life. Joey then turns it back to Jen, of course, and says, what do you mean? Blondie isn't giving you any? I thought by now you would have, and then raise an eyebrow. And then Dawson goes, you're real romantic, aren't you, Joey? Which, Dawson, you are too. Yeah, you are so romantic, Dawson. You even know how to get a girl. Like, she's standing right in front of you. And then there's Jen, the blondie girl, who just can't get enough of you and won't kiss you. I just found this so funny. Like, Dawson, you're so romantic that you had to videotape your first kiss to see how you were doing and had to get your dad to explain your first kiss. That's kind of sad, to be honest. And then Joey says, well, personally, I don't think you're going to get anywhere unless you blow up the wicked grandmother. We then see Gail helping Bob with the soft bee. I'm never going to say his name right. Bob. With his sports coat. It was kind of sad seeing Bob and then sports coat. Dawson, of course, calls out his mom's name, and Joey's face the whole time was just like, you got to be kidding me. Gail is nervous, and while Dawson's eating up every word while what Bob with the soft bee is saying, and Joey's just getting angrier and angrier and angrier at Mrs. Cleary. Gail goes, I'm sorry, Dawson, this is, and then Bob goes, Bob. And then we see him say Bob Cronsworth, while Dawson says 6 to 11. Joey's lips were just like pressed together, just like, I am going to kill this woman. Like, I am going to murder her. That's what she looks like. While Bob explains everything that is happening, while Joey is just glaring. Like, it's not even like, I like how Joey glares, because she just does it so softly. But how does Dawson not notice Joey's expression the whole time. And then after he explains what is happening and why Bob is there, he's basically like, well, your mom is just kind of helping me, and like, if you ever want to come down to the center and film your movie, that would be completely fine. Well, Joey's just like, excuse me? And then Gail says it's time to go to Bob, and Joey rolls her eyes as Gail helps Bob with his coat. Dawson then explains to Joey how he thought Bob was a tool, and now in person he isn't that bad. And Joey says, I think you had it right the first time, and Dawson raises his eyebrow. Which, again, Dawson, how did you not know that your mom was having an affair? Which, I know a lot of people don't know that their mom and dad are having an affair, and it makes complete sense. Like, there are so many times that I could tell you guys, I'm like, okay, like, I know about a few affairs from my parents, and now that I'm further into the episode, I will say that it's not fun knowing that your parents have an affair, because it's just like, how do you tell the other person? Do you not tell the other person? How do you handle the situation? Like, is there a way to handle the situation? And the truth being honest, Joey was doing the right thing by not telling Dawson, because he would have had those same questions, and he did. And I just feel bad for Dawson, because he was just standing there, like, not knowing that Gail was having an affair, while Joey was, and he was just like, what? Like, what do you mean I had it right the first time? But he didn't say anything, and we didn't see anything, but I could imagine Joey just kind of shrugging it off, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. We then see scene 2 of Pacey. We see Pacey running towards Tamara, and says, hey, Tamara, and she says, hi, well, this is a surprise. And Pacey explains how he was just at the video store, and he pointed over there, and he says that he just thought he'd come on over. And she said, well, I'm glad you did. Pacey asks what she's reading, and she explains how she is the 10th grade reading material next. You hear that, Pacey? 10th grade. For you, buddy. Not for her, but for you, so that you can figure out the next reading. And then she asks if he has any suggestions, which I feel like that's very inappropriate, because you're having sex with this boy, and then you're asking the next few days, which I always wonder, and this is really an inappropriate question, did Pacey and Tamara ever do it again? Because we only see it that one time, but I always think in the back of my head, oops, I did it again. I played with your heart, got lost in the game. Oh baby, baby, oops, you think I'm in love, but sent from above. I'm not that innocent. Pacey takes on her offer and says action, and she asks him action, and he replies with, yeah, sex. I mean, what is our school board so afraid of? We're practically adults now. Pause. No, Pacey. We are not practically adults. We can probably drive. Yes. We could get a job. Yes. But no way are we adults, because I'm currently 17. That's 2 years older than Pacey. I have no clue what I'm doing half the time. And I'm at the point where, like, if my parents moved, then I would have to move with them, and I never understand, because, trust me, a lot of people were like, when I was 16, I got my permit right away, and I did this, and right when I was about to get my permit, the pandemic started, and I just had no motivation to ever get my permit, and I just find it very, very ironic that Pacey was like, we're practically adults now. Me have no clue what I'm doing half the time, doesn't have a job, doesn't have an idea, sitting here for the past 2 years trying to get my life together, and right when I get my grades up where it's an A and a B, I'm gonna have to get a permit. I'm gonna have to get a license. I'm gonna have to get a job. Like, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for commitment, okay? I may be 17, but there is no way that I am practically an adult now. No. Like, no. I'm not ready for that commitment. And he continues on by saying, we can handle this stuff. Yeah, sure, that's why everyone in 9th grade were laughing at this stuff. That's why. And he continues by saying, a few blue novels aren't gonna kill us. I remember when we were watching Romeo and Juliet in 9th grade, because with the whole pandemic started, we couldn't, like, really read that much stories anymore. And I remember everyone laughing at the sex scene of Romeo and Juliet, because in the movie, like, it really had visual stuff in it. And everyone was like, gross, ew, and that's disgusting. And the teacher obviously, like, she didn't say anything, because sure enough, like, when you're a freshman, that's 15, that's Pacey's age, you can handle it, right? No, nobody in my class handled that correctly. Even I don't think I handled that correctly. But this year, as I'm reading along with the books, I want to say this a lot, I never had a sex scene so far, and maybe The Great Gatsby has one, which I don't know if it does or not. I haven't read the full book. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of us are more mature than we would like to say. But then, of course, there were a few boys in my class when we were reading The Streetcars, and my teacher put up a picture of this woman representing Blanche in the book, and all the boys were like, ooh, like, I want her, and da-da-da-da-da, and I'm just like, guys, grow up, just grow up. But of course they never do. They never will, probably. Till 27, because apparently that's when they're gonna get mature. I have no clue. Tamara says, Pacey, every piece of literature that you read this year will have sex in it. Everything you read last year probably will. Which, yeah, you're right, Tamara. Pacey says, it's not real sex. I mean, it's sex as cautionary tale. Sex is a warning. And then Tamara looks very entertained by all this. I'm not kidding about this. Every time someone in one of those books has sex, something bad has to happen. Romeo and Juliet, they had sex. Next thing you know, they're killing themselves. That's very true, Pacey. That's very, very true. The Scarlet Letter. Esther Prime has sex, and the next thing you know, she's an outcast for life. And then he goes, the Greek one. And then Tamara goes, Autobus? And he goes, yeah, that one. That guy sleeps with some chick who granted his mother. He's freaked out by it. He pokes his own eye. Okay, that's not real life. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it has been known to happen that every once in a while, two people sleep together, they enjoy it, and afterwards everything works out fine. I love how when Pacey goes, he pokes out his own eye. Tamara's face was just like, wow, like that's something. I love Tamara's face throughout the whole thing. She was it was such a teacher face. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but whenever, like, a teacher's making a face, they always make, like, this certain type of face, and I can't obviously explain it on voice audio, but it's like where their lips are pressed together, and they're just nodding their head and staring at you. And as soon as I see a face like that, I'm like, they're not listening to me. They're not understanding a word I'm saying. And I understand that because I do it to the preschoolers sometimes, where they'll be explaining something to me, and I'm just like, I have no clue what you're saying, but this is adorable. And I feel like that's how Tomorrow probably was. Not like in an adorable sense, like, oh, like, ha ha ha, he's so cute, and da-da-da-da, like how a normal 15-year-old would do. Probably like, he's hilarious. Like, he's 15. He thinks he knows what he's talking about. And then Pacey reaches out to touch her hand, And then for a minute, they like were holding hands on top of her, like Pacey's hand was on top of her hand, just for like probably like 20 seconds. And then Tamara pushes it away, and then we see a close shot of Pacey's face just looking like, why don't you want to touch my hand? Touch my hand. We then see scene 3 of just Joey. Joey is wearing like this pink crop top with stripes on it, and can I just say, she looks adorable in this. Like, this whole outfit completes the whole scene. I don't know what it was. We see Joey opening a door as Dawson says, I need to talk to you. Which means, aka, he found out about the affair. Dun dun dun! Oh, Dawson, you're in for a ride. Joey and I both know the feeling. They are outside, and then Dawson explains, what I really should do is tell my dad. Dad, the woman you are about to celebrate 2 blissful years of marriage with, well, she's sleeping with Bob now. Bob with a soft P. Apparently the scent of his ice blue aqua violet was too much to resist. I don't know why Dawson paid so much attention to what he was wearing, because I can't even tell you like what color shirt I'm wearing half the time unless I look down. Which one of my teachers a long time ago, I think I might have been like in 6th grade. Well, whenever like band teachers often do this, like they'll say something to you like, I like your shirt, or I like this, not like in a creepy way, but that's just that's what teachers do, you know? And every single time a teacher would say this, I would always have to look down and see what I'm wearing, because you just have to. And a teacher made comment about it one time. They're like, why do kids always look down at what they're wearing? And then they went to another kid, and they're like, hey, I like the shirt that you're wearing. And then they looked down, and then he was like, see, like every single time that someone's wearing a shirt, they always have to look down and see what the person's talking about. Which I'm like, because I don't know, like we always just put on a random shirt. I don't know. I always, whenever I feel really cute in an outfit, no one says anything, and I'm just like, huh, that's nice. But then when I put like a random outfit on, everyone says something. They're like, oh, I like your shirt. Oh, I like this. Oh, I like that. And I'm like, leave me alone. I just put on a random shirt this morning. And that just happens. Joey then says, I think we both know that that's not the best idea, Dawson. Which, of course, it's not the best idea, Joey. You are totally right. But Dawson doesn't agree. He said, God, I joked about them having an affair, but I was never serious. Of course you're never serious. No one's ever serious when they joke about something like that. And Dawson says, you ever wonder what the rate of adultery in this town is? I mean, your parents, my parents. I hate how we brought up Joey's parents into it. I don't know, like, if I get, like, you two are best friends or something, and Joey has done this before, and I'm pretty sure Pacey has done this before. But, like, if you know that it's a sensitive topic, and you know, like, that they're still dealing with it, don't bring it up like your parents, my parents, like they're all having an affair. Like, no, Dawson, no, don't say stuff like that. And he continues by saying, we live in this Norman Rockwell picture postcard town with whitewashed fences and beach house fronts. And then he goes, do you think people know? And Joey goes, people always know. Which, true that. There was this neighbor, and they recently got divorced, and I'm like, why'd they get divorced? And in my mind, I don't know why I'm so dramatic, I'm like, in my mind, I think of the most scandalous thing possible when I hear people have an affair, and I know it's a very sensitive topic to some people, but I think to me it's not a sensitive topic because I been through a parent who had an affair once, and I know what happened. I'm like, okay, I'm convinced anytime someone's getting a divorce, it either means that 1, they don't love each other, 2, many problems, or 3, they had an affair. Or they did drugs. Which, Joey was all 2 with that. Probably 3, because money too. Because when you sell cocaine and that kind of stuff, it's probably gonna be a big part of the divorce, which I don't think Joey's parents ever did. Yeah, they didn't get divorced, which was kind of sad. Because I want justice for Joey and Joey's mom, who we never met, which was kind of sad. Dawson then says, but we didn't know. And then he realized, oh wait, she did know. A minute, why didn't she say anything? Joey then says, why? So you could hate me by telling you this? Because you know that's what would have happened. I thought you would have seen it by now. Funny how Joey knew her place and all this, why Dawson didn't, and he just automatically made Joey in season 2, episode 21, I think, where he made her go up to her dad and say that I know everything and had to record the whole thing. Well, Joey just stayed out of it. I'm proud of you, Joey. Like, you knew your place in this, and you said what you needed to say. You kind of threatened Miss Cleary, which I probably would have done the same thing, and I'm proud of you. Go, Joey. She then explains how he's been preoccupied, and Joey asked, what is she talking about? And she goes, blondie girl, blondie hair, cut B. And Dawson accused her of lying, and Joey said she didn't know what to say. And Dawson continues by saying, what? Are you threatened by Jen? Joey goes, threatened, Dawson? No, I'm not threatened, I'm bored, which reminds me of that scene where she goes, jealous? Hardly. I love it when Joey's trying to, cover up that she's not jealous of anything, when it's so clear that she is definitely jealous a lot of the time. And Dawson said, you're bored, so you lied to me to curb your own boredom. I just blinked because Dawson, that's so stupid. That's not what she meant, but of course he had to twist her words around. And Joey goes, I was trying to be your friend. Dawson says, no, Joey, what you did was not an action of a friend. What you did, and let me make this perfectly clear, is disengage this friendship. I'm sorry. What? What? So basically, since your best friend never told you that your parents are having an affair, or that I always get confused with the affair part, because I always think I'm like, how could you the affair? Do you say that the partner is getting, I don't know. So guys, if I mess that up, don't judge me. Joey was at a loss of words, and Dawson was like, well, I'll make it easier for you, and he says, have a good day, have a nice life, which, me too, Dawson, I say that all the time when I'm mad at someone. I'm like, bye, have a good life, have a nice day. Whenever I'm mad, I make these smart remarks, and it's very hard not to make a smart remark. And then at the end, you're like, oh my god, why the heck did I say that? Why did I do that? And it's like that moment of just pain coming through you. I saw this video on one of my friends' Snapchat where it says, if a person says it is what it is, it means that they don't give a crap about what you're saying. That's basically what the whole video was saying. And I'm like, I always say it is what it is whenever I'm talking about something. It is what it is that I got this grade. It is what it is that this person doesn't want to talk to me. It is what it is that this person doesn't like my opinion. But deep, deep, deep inside, I'm like, it is not what it is. I'm in pain. My heart is in pain. I'm emotionally not okay. This is physically not okay. I do not accept this. Like, it is not what it is. And that's where my smart remarks whenever I'm coming into a fight, I go, bye, have a nice life. I have literally said that to someone. Well, Joey was just standing there like, I don't know what to say about this. And then we see an outlook of her adorable outfit, which, again, I like her outfit. I like 90s outfits, which I guess if I was living in the 90s, then I would like 70s outfits, because I feel like all of us like a different decades outfit, because we don't like the decades that we're in. And then one day we're going to be like, hey, remember when we wore a bunch of scrunchies for no good reasons? Yeah, like on our wrists, because why not? My generation's kind of sad. We just wear like very, very short stuff, and I don't wear that kind of stuff. Like, we're the lazy generations. That's why I have not got my permit. But yeah, that's where we cut out in that scene. We then see scene 3 of Pacey. We see a quick scene of Pacey, and this is completely random. I have no idea where this could fit in. Looking at Tamara and Mr. Gold as he was walking into the video store. It was kind of like the dance scene where there was no good reason for this scene, but it came in so fast that you can't ignore it because it's part of Pacey and it comes back to you later. And then we see that same thing again where he's at his locker and Tamara is fixing Mr. Gold's collar, and we just see like this big like zoom in effect and Pacey just slamming his locker. We then see Pacey walk into Miss Jacobs' classroom and says, question of the day, do you think if someone is having an affair with multiple partners, they should tell the both partners of the arrangement? And Tamara, or Miss Jacobs, says, an informative survey, Pacey. Pacey says, oh no, I think you'll find this very relatable with STDs and AIDS running rapid. And I don't know why I found this funny. I always find it funny whenever 90s or like 80s things, which this is a very serious topic and I know, but it's just funny how things are very different, because who knows what our shows are going to say, which is COVIDs, but now they say STDs and AIDS running rapidly. I don't think I ever heard of that in like a 2010 show or like a 2020 show. Then he says, not to mention the mortal involvement. And then Miss Jacobs goes, no, I agree. If you are intimately involved with someone, I want to know. Because she's like, what the heck are you talking about? Pacey then tells her not to turn around on him. And Tamara goes, what am I turning around? And he goes, the issue. And she goes, what's that? And he says, well, do you like him or do you like me? Mood, Pacey. Such a mood right there. And Tamara goes, you know, you're very disarming when you start to sound like your age. You think? Like, you really think that he sounds a little bit disarming when he's sounding like his age? Because he's 15. I sound disarming when I'm talking about my age, but I think that's not what she's talking about here. Tricky. And Pacey says, I saw you two at lunch yesterday and today in the hallway, laughing together. The way you brushed on his arm, who's it gonna be, Tamara? Me or Mr. Gold? Okay, Pacey, getting a little bit ahead of yourself. And then she goes, you know, I never knew you were so bothered by this, Pacey. And Pacey just looks down so shameful, like, okay. Pacey, because I hate to think I have to choose. I mean, Benji and I have so much in common. We love to talk about books and authors, and we're both big opera fans, not to mention our legendary man troubles. Pacey has man troubles, and Tamara says that he has failed to realize that she is not Benji's type, unless she bears some resemblance to Mel Alton. Goes, Mr. Gold is gay? Which I love his expression on this. And I'm not saying, like, anything against this whole situation where a teacher's gay. I have a choir teacher who's actually gay, but it's not, I don't really know the situation in this part. If you are gay and you're a teacher, I always wonder what would happen. But I feel like this was such a sensitive topic just for Tamara, just kind of bring it out, and this is me kind of critiquing Tamara at the last minute. But, Tamara, if someone tells you that they are gay in the 90s, don't go and tell the student that you're having an affair with that the teacher's gay. Like, that is so wrong in so many different ways. Like, no. Like, don't do that. She then tells him that that is not to be repeated. Well, you already repeated it. He asked why she didn't hold his hand, and she explains because we were in a public place, maybe, and he goes, oh. And then Tamara goes, Pacey, if you're confused about us, if you're trying to make sense out of what's happening between us, the best I can tell you is so am I. Then why do you continue going and sleep with this boy and kiss him and hug him and hold his hand? Like, Like, I'm sure you are so confused right now, Tamara. Like, let's turn that on you. Like, what? Let's really talk about that tomorrow, can we? Like, I'm sure you're really confused about this situation, because, you know, that's why you haven't ended it. That makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. If you're confused about the situation, maybe you should take a minute and end it. Yeah, just end it. But instead, Pacey goes, oh yeah, and then she goes, yes. I find it funny that he said yeah and she said yes. I don't know why that was so formal compared to the other parts. We then see scene 4 of Pacey, where Dawson is telling Pacey about this whole situation with Jen and how she's not a virgin, and he asks, would this bug you? And Pacey's like, why would this bother me? And Dawson explains because she had sex with other guys, and Pacey goes on to say, you see, this is what I don't understand about you, Dawson. If the woman I was hot for came up to me and in some confessional way told me she wasn't a virgin, don't you see what she's doing for you? Which Dawson says no, and Pacey then explains, which I love every single thing that he does with his hands. He's so expressive with his hands. He's like, he uses like his two hands and just shakes them, which I know that's how people talk, but I don't know why that's always funny to me. She's giving you an in, Dawson. She's saying, look, I understand that you're a little nervous about making the first move because you're some romantic who puts women like me up on the pedestal. So here, I'm going to give you the greatest gift any desirable woman can give to any sexual inexperienced guy. Which I kind of wonder if Pacey was kind of talking about Joey at this point, because in this part where he says because you're some romantic who puts women like me up on a pedestal, so here, I wonder if he like kind of saw Joey and Dawson not get along, like not getting along, but like Joey falling in love like a puppy and following him around while Dawson was just there trying to follow Jen around like a puppy. So he was trying to give his best advice and say like, go for it, and this is your way to get a girl, which Pacey, no, like, no, Pacey. Dawson then asks an in, and Pacey says she wants you badly, and Dawson says, this isn't about sex, Pacey, it's about romance. You have no idea what you're talking about, do you? Dawson, no, we don't say that to our friends. Like, nuh-uh, we don't say you don't know what you're talking about just because he had sex and you haven't. Which, this proves my point, where Dawson kind of finds him as just this horny boy, and I really don't like it. Like, anytime, from now until probably the very end of the season, he just sees Pacey as this horny teenager after figuring out that he had some sex. And this is where Dawson is very jealous of Pacey in a lot of ways, and this is number one. Because I also like how Pacey explains in a language where Dawson will get it, like, Dawson will understand that Pacey got a woman, but he calls her a girl. Like, I got the girl this time, like, that's who I got. And Dawson was like, oh, like I get it, like, he didn't really say that much, and again, like, I don't understand why he never said that much. But at this point, Dawson, you don't use what he says and it come out and just attack him for it. Like, that's not what you do. Like, you don't come on and you don't say, like, just because he had more experience than you have, doesn't mean you have to go, like, you have no idea what you're talking about. This is romance. Like, you know what you're talking about. You try to videotape your first kiss with the girl. Don't come and tell Pacey he doesn't know what the heck he's doing, because I'm pretty sure he knows far more than what you think he does. And he does. He really does. Every single time Dawson's trying to make a move and he fails, Pacey goes and just swipes the girl off his feet, aka Joey Potter. Pacey then looks very hurt at Dawson when he said that line. And he goes, yeah, I do. And this part is where Pacey comes very, very honest, because Dawson goes, no, you don't, because I was going to say before this, the world, according to Pacey's speech, I'm rolling my eyes right now, is this has nothing to do with the stupid end or even getting Jen the sack. It has to do with one thing. And Pacey goes, the fact that you're scared. And Pacey goes, the fact that you are scared. Face it, Dawson. The Jen Lindley you have built in your head does not entirely exist, okay? In your movies, she can be whoever you want to be. But in real life, the script got thrown out. And all I can say is enjoy it, man. Life has pretty good benefits. That's what he tells him. Which I love how Pacey still sees the end and all of it. But I love how Pacey's so honest with him when he's saying, like, he never came out and said, and punched Dawson in the face for saying this to him. Like, he was very honest with him by saying, like, the Jen Lindley that you have built up in your head is not the Jen that is actually there. Because Dawson really does build up who Jen is, and it kind of makes me very, very annoyed. While Pacey over here, he knows that Tamara probably won't like him. And I think it's just a different perspective from only child to having a few siblings and not having parents that care. But when you get called a failure your whole life, and then you see your best friend, who's an only child, who doesn't know what it's like to ever be compared to something or have competition, it's hard for you to understand, like, this is real life, and this is where my life is going to take me, because in his head, he's going to get Jen Lindley. Like, that's who he's going to get, which, I mean, he does. He really does kind of get in. You know what I'm talking about? But in Dawson's head at the moment, he was like, you don't get it. Like, this is not it. And then Dawson comes back with, without all that expectation plot twist, though, the virginal girlfriend, and then Pacey interrupts by saying, is not actually a virgin. In the wave motion that he does, he goes, not actually a virgin. Like, you know what I mean? And then Dawson says, in the high school strikeout artist is having an affair with his English teacher. And he was so proud of himself when he says this. And Dawson then says, and then there's the happily married couple who's celebrating their 20th anniversary, their wedding anniversary tonight, who isn't as happy as we thought. Pacey goes, yeah, that sucks, man. Have you talked to your mom? Dawson goes, nope, change of plans. And Pacey looks very serious and goes, Dawson, I thought you were going to tell her. And Dawson goes, I'm going to tell my dad. Dawson never knows how to handle a situation. He never does. He always thinks that he's handling the best situation as possible, but then he really fails at it. Like, he's just thinking like, oh, my situation is going to be completely honest with someone. Which, don't get me wrong, I probably would have done the same thing. Just be honest with the person. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But if you're honest with the person, they're going to come back with you with so many things that aren't even funny. We then see scene 4 of Joey. Jen walks into the kitchen and Joey says kitchen's closed, and Jen says that she needs some advice. And when Joey goes, what can I be the expert in? Jen says, Dawson. Joey then says she is sort of busy, and she's obviously lying, because I wouldn't, like, if I had a crush on someone and their crush's crush walked up to me, I would be like, get out of here. And that's how Joey's feeling right now. Jen then says that she told Dawson that she is not a virgin. And Joey's like, I'm not busy anymore. Like, I got time for you now. And Jen explains how disappointed he was in her. And Joey says, well, let me tell you about Dawson. Granted, he's an architect for his age, but he's not exactly mature. You're right about that. You're definitely right about that, Joey. He's the classic only child. He pouts when things don't go his way and only sees things in black and white. Everything else confuses him. And Jen says, yeah. Which goes back to the scene with Pacey and Dawson, where just because he didn't like what Pacey was saying, he turned it around and went, you don't know what you're talking about? This is about romance. And Pacey was like, I know what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Like, this is romance. And Dawson was like, no, it's not. And this right here, when she says, he pouts when things don't go his way and sees things in black and white. He was seeing things black and white. And then it goes back to when Joey didn't tell him about the affair. He didn't understand why she didn't tell him about the affair. It was the classic only child. He pouted about it, and he didn't get his way in it, so he saw the things in black and white instead of the whole picture. Like, he didn't see the full picture. And then when Jen told him that he wasn't a virgin, he pouted about it. Like, that's her virginity. Like, there was no saying in it. Like, that wasn't the thing. Like, it just kind of happened. But no, he didn't see it, so that's where he got confused with everything. Joey then continues and says, and when it comes to women, there are popes who have experienced more. I mean, the guy was a shrimp until last summer. To say his sex life is limited is an understatement of the decade. It's Barno. A dessert. I don't envy what you have to deal with, believe me. And Jen asks, are you trying to scare me? You aren't trying to scare me off, are you? And Joey says, no. I'm trying to say that every guy that grows up to be the good ones, he was probably a dweeb with girls when he was 15 too. Very true. And I know a lot of people who are older than me, and they say when I was 15, like, I did this, but I noticed a big improvement on Pacey when he started, after he went out with Tamara. He started treating girls like they were actually human, but in another way, after he went out with Andy, that's when Pacey really started treating girls like they were women. Like I said last episode, he called Joey a woman. He never called her a girl, he called her a woman, and I just found that very respectful, because most guys will be like girls, and I like it when guys call girls women, because it's not like one of those creepy things, but I also don't like it when people say young lady. I don't know why that creeps me out, or because all I hear when someone says young lady is young lady, something like that, because that's what I hear. And in this scene, it just kind of proves that when you're 15, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what the heck you're doing. Pacey didn't know what he was doing. Dawson didn't know what he was doing. And Dawson, in my eyes, maybe he grew up, found a wife, had a few kids, but in my head, I really don't think that he grew up until like 5 years after the show. Like, and probably until Pacey and Joey had kids, because I feel like that's probably when he was trying to settle down. He got married then to someone that was probably a filmmaker, probably blonde, not gonna lie. That's who I see him with. And she was probably spoiled and rich and had all these things, or maybe she was a nice young lady. But I think like there was a time where Dawson was trying to figure out all these different time things, and in season 1 it made sense. It really did make sense that he was trying to figure out everything. But in another way, there was a time where he was supposed to grow up, and I don't think he ever figured out how to treat a woman. That's just my opinion. That's my biased opinion. But I will say the same thing for Pacey. Like, I don't think he knew how to treat... Like, he knew how to treat a girl, or a woman, but he really didn't know what to exactly do. And I think at 15, it makes sense. Like, I fully expect it. Even at 17, 18, 19, 20, like, I expect you don't know how to treat a woman. But as you get older, you should know how to treat someone. You should hold the door open. You should be a proper gentleman. And especially nowadays, I don't see that quite often. There's this kid in the school, and he always holds the door open. I think he might be 14, I don't know. And I'm like, where do we find guys like that, where they could just hold the door open, be a proper gentleman, and now it's not very expected of you, and I think that's kind of sad. So when it goes back to boys don't know how to treat girls at 15, Joey was very right there, I will say that. Jen then goes, so what did you do? And Joey said, same as you. I get hurt, mad, confused, ask people for advice, maybe the wrong people, and then I wait. Which, Joey, poor Joey, because I know the feeling of just having to ask people and waiting for them to respond in a good, fashionable way. It's so painful, because even the person that you're trying to ask, they have no clue what they're talking about. They're not in your mind. They're not in your headspace. And maybe that's just my dramatic way of saying it. But when you're trying to ask someone for advice, I think it's so hard because you're just waiting. Like Joey said, you're hurt, you're mad, you're confused, and you ask people for advice. And sometimes it is the wrong people. But I think that's what makes life so beautiful, because there are so many things that you get to do wrong. And sadly, love is one of them. But if you mess up on love, there's always someone out there. And even if you don't have someone out there, you have yourself. And I think that's the biggest part about life, is no matter what, at the end of the day, there's you. And there's only you. And you can be big, small at love, but you can always be big and courageous with yourself. And that doesn't have to be a love type of thing. I know a lot of people preach out self-love, but I think self-love is a total different thing. Like, when you're putting on, a lot of people say when you're putting on makeup, that could be self-love. When you're putting on a face mask, that could be self-love. For me, it's probably when I put on a cute outfit or take a shower, because a person who has dealt with depression and a person who has really struggled with a lot of things, it's about cheering myself on, and it's about getting through the day, and that's what self-love is. So for the scene to say you just continue asking people and moving on from it, that was a good way of that was a good way of approaching the situation, and bringing it out by saying, hey, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. By saying, hey, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. That was a good representation of saying, hey, I don't know what the heck I'm doing half the time, and that's perfectly okay, but here I am, and I'm moving on, and I think that I can do it. And Jen says, for what? And Joey says, for him to grow up, come around, everything. And Jen asks, how long does that take? And Joey says, don't go by me. I'd probably be stupid enough to wait forever. And Jen says, mind the company, and that's the end of the scene, because Joey just kind of looks down. But I love this scene because it was the first honest scene with Joey. Like I said, there was a good part of the episode where it was basically of her just kind of coming out of her bubble a little bit. And as the episodes go on and on and on, we see what Joey's actually thinking. Like, she's quiet. She's very, very sassy in the first episode. But as the episodes kind of go on, her sassiness kind of builds up, but you kind of see where she's coming from. She's this typical 15-year-old girl who's jealous, and that makes sense because at one point we're all jealous. But when you're quiet like Joey is with her feelings, then it kind of brings out the snarky remarks and that kind of stuff. And especially when you get hurt like this by your parents and by your, maybe not your family members, but meaning to, but you hold this cage against your heart where it's kind of hard to tell people how you're feeling. And so for Joey to say she'll probably be stupid enough to wait forever, I can see Joey waiting forever. And I think if Pacey never came along, I feel like Joey would move on. I feel like AJ would come along. I totally forgot about AJ. I said last episode that there was Eddie and this guy, but I totally forgot about AJ. Yeah, AJ kind of brought out Joey a little bit towards Pacey, but there were so many scenes where Pacey was kind of not really pushing Joey to go with Dawson, but it was kind of like proof that he saw what was happening. You could tell that he was kind of encouraging his friend to kind of go along with it, but in another way, I really feel like Dawson wasn't a good guy for Joey for that long, and a lot of people have said this, especially in my messages, where they'll say, like, I'll never understand why Joey and Dawson stayed together from season 1 to season 6. And my answer to that is, I don't know either. Like, I don't know why she stayed with him for that long, but I feel like when you're bond to that childhood and you're bond to that person for so long, you just want to be with that person forever. And you're so blindsided by what's happening that you don't really think about the actions that come with it a lot of the times. And so it makes sense that she was going to wait forever. It made sense that she was waiting for him to grow up and come around and everything. And it made sense that she just, I feel like even when Pacey and Joey were dating, she was waiting on him to come around. Like, she was waiting on Dawson to come around and accept the fact. And I really don't think that Dawson ever did. But it made sense why he never did. Because you think that person's going to come out forever. Like, you have this attitude, you're blind, and you really think that just because you're the only child means that you get your own way. And I think that's where having a sibling may help, because I know that I can't get my own way, especially when it comes to conversations where it's like moving. Like, you can't just think about yourself because you have to think about your other sibling. Or it comes with, if I ask for a candy bar, will they want a candy bar, or will I have to split it? And even at 17, I'm almost an adult, and I still have to do things that I had to do when I was 3. Like, I had to split things, and I had to share things. But I think when you're the only child, I don't know what that feels like. From what I heard, it's kind of hard to share these things because you don't know what it's like to share. We then see Pacey and Tamara's bedroom, which I always wondered, why? Why did she just kind of allow that, oh, you're in my bedroom, like, haha. I believe she was grading papers, and he was just sitting there reading a magazine. And then we see Pacey ask the question that we were all thinking, what are you, like 35? And she replies with something like that. And you've been with other guys, right? Pacey, she's 35. Yeah, she's been with other guys. And then she replies with some. I love how she says some. He asked how many, and she says, you want numbers? And he nods. She says, well, let's see. There was one in high school, one in college. Since then, there's been 3, but no one for a few years. And Pacey says, oh, great, thanks. And she goes, Pacey? He says, yeah. About the one in high school? I didn't mean my high school. Gross. But at least she didn't give him like a big number to see his reaction, aka Audrey over there. Or at least he didn't spit out his string or wreck his car, because that was also what Audrey did to him. I like how you could see the parallels between that scene and what happened in season 5, where Audrey was just wanting a reaction of him. Audrey being Audrey, of course. Audrey's something else, I will say that. I'm curious how many people honestly liked Audrey, because I like Audrey. But I know a lot of people probably didn't watch season 5 or season 6 all the way because of Pacey and Joey. But you guys, it's amazing. Like, season 5 was probably one of my favorite seasons, and season 6, and everyone really hates on it. Everyone really hates on it, but it's such a good season. Like, I don't know why everyone hates on it, but there were pretty bad writings at time. There was a SpongeBob meme where it said this, I think it was like, it got so long that the writers had to hire a new writer, and that's what I put on my Instagram. And that's how I view season 5 and season 6. The writers just got so tired of what they were writing that they just had to give up. They should have just ended with Joey and Pacey getting married, but no, that's not what happens. We then see scene 5 of Joey, aka the last scene. We cut to Joey walking towards Dawson in the ruins, and Joey says, hanging out with all your friends? Again, Joey looks so cute with her long sleeves and her stripes. She just looks adorable, but this time I noticed that she had her hair down instead of in a ponytail when we saw her with Jen. So I'm assuming this was probably like a couple hours after, or not a couple, but like probably 30 minutes after Jen came. And Dawson, being Dawson, replies with, yep, that's why you weren't invited. Like, okay, Dawson, I don't think she honestly cares. And then Joey says, "Phase your own stud. I come in peace. You're going to screw that up, you know." And Dawson says, "What?" And she says, "Jen. She came and talked to me. I told her to sit tight. He'll come back." Dawson then says, "Thanks. Appreciate it, Joey." Such a smart reply. I would have smacked that boy against the head just like, what? Anyway, Joey says, I explained to her that it was just the displaced anger, and you were just mad at your mom and dad. He goes, "I'm just mad at the world, Joey. I'm a teenager." I like how they always refer. I'm gonna count one episode how many times they say a sentence and then their name, because anytime they're having a serious conversation, they always say, "I'm mad at the world, Joey," or "Listen to me, Dawson." I don't understand why they always refer to each other's name. It drives me crazy sometimes, but God, it's so cute. And Joey replies with, "Oh, and by the way, we're all pals now, Bonnie and I. So, if you have any messages you want to get back to her, let me know." And Dawson says, "Look, Whatever you've done, thanks. But I don't want to talk about it with you. And Joey does like this pout on her lip when he says this. And I honestly found this adorable. But then she smiles at him and says, come on, passing a chance to ditch about the girl of your dreams. I thought you did that with your friends. And then he says, it is. Except I'm not sure that we are. Which, really? You're just gonna get mad at her for that? Like, that's all you're gonna get mad at? And then she says, oh, duel. The tables have turned. Dawson says, this isn't about yesterday, Joey. It's last week, last month. Everything up between us recently, we're not getting along the way we used to. Such a mood. Such a mood. I always wonder why people don't tell other people how they're feeling, and then suddenly you just kind of burst out. Which I get there's different types of people, and I understand that. But in another way, I'm like, do you not hear yourself? Like, if you're feeling something, just say it. But then there's a part of me that doesn't say anything when I'm feeling angry, so it makes complete sense. And Joey says, so the friendship, you don't think we're friends anymore? Dawson says, I don't know. Are we more? Are we less? Where did that come from? Where the heck did that come from? He says, all I know is it's not just the way it used to be. Nothing is anymore. Joey says, it's called social evolution, Dawson. What's strong, flourish, and what doesn't, we don't look back behind it. Glass cases in science museums. Dawson then says, you and I are museum bond? Joey says, I don't know about that. And then kind of pauses, and then she says, you get angry at me way too easily. Dawson says, you're way too critical of me. And then they smile and laugh. Dawson says, in some alternative universe, we must have been married like 50 years. Joey then says, yeah, I'm sure it's a wonderful wedding. And Dawson says, oh, the best. We each brought dates, I assume. Dawson says, yeah. Jen was by my side throughout. And at the end of the night, the evolution question, who to take home to the date or the wife. Fantastic. Face the choice you stood there. Surveying your options, your eyes drift slowly from her to me, back to her. Then there's a pause, and Dawson says, I'm back to you? Yeah, but I was off drinking with the rich guy at the bar, aka Pacey. We're gonna assume that's who she was drinking with, because they never included Jacey in this, so I'm assuming that she just ran off with Pacey. Maybe this was foreshadowing. We could see that. And Dawson says, till the money bags got fresh and you needed someone to bail you out. Could have been Pacey. We're assuming that's Pacey. Joey says, I don't remember that part. And Joey looks up and he says, oh, I do. Clear as day. Absolutely. You were definitely in the need of a rescue. Joey then says, were you man enough? Did you set aside your clear head, analyze the situation and act? Did we save each other that night, Dawson? Probably not. They probably were like, see ya, peace out, suckers. Then he says, it's getting a little hasty at this point, I can't remember. Couldn't tell you. I hate how he never told her, yeah, I was a man and I walked up to him, because he was never a man. He could never. Dawson could never, ever stand up for what he believed in and walked up to someone. But in that case, he could always, walk up to someone else completely different and then say his opinions, but he could never walk up to his own opinions and say what he needed to say. I find that very ironic. Joey says, when it comes back to you, I certainly be serious to hear how it all ended up. Dawson says, you'll be my first call. And she says, well, good night, Dawson. All the subtext is making me tired. And then walks away and stops and says, Dawson? Dawson said, yeah? Joey says, no matter how the wedding turned out, I'm pretty sure I had a wonderful time until the end. Maybe that was foreshadowing, guys, because hear me out. Season 3, episode 23, she had a great time up until the end that she was crying and running to Pacey. That was a big foreshadowing right there. And then Dawson quietly says, me too. Or you were just sobbing on the deck. And Joey then walks away, and away from Dawson she says, no doubt about it, straight to Sinozo, and as she just stares at him. And that was the end of this episode. If you like this episode, make sure to give it a big thumbs up if you're on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe if you like it. Comment down below and tell me what you think about this, or you can always message me on Instagram, that's Witter and Potter. Make sure to follow me on TikTok, that's Pacey and Joey. Have a great week, have a great Sunday, or whatever day you're listening to this. Bye!